Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the Monday Night Raw review. And tonight's Raw was the Raw after WrestleMania. Do I even want to call this show the Raw after WrestleMania? Because this show did not even feel like a Raw after WrestleMania. It just felt like a regular Monday Night Raw that we get every single week. This was literally the worst Raw after WrestleMania I have ever seen. And the show sucked tonight, as always. But when you think of the Raw after WrestleMania, the Raw after WrestleMania is supposed to be one of the biggest Monday Night Raws of the year. Coming off one of the biggest shows of the year, or one of the biggest pay-per-views of the year. You go into the Raw after WrestleMania with the fans getting all hyped up, and you expect, some surprises, some NXT call-ups. Unfortunately, we did not get that tonight. It just felt like WWE put no effort into the show, into having a decent Raw after WrestleMania, because I was expecting, and I know a lot of you were expecting, some maybe NXT call-ups, and we did not get that. But the show, like I said, just didn't feel like a Raw after WrestleMania. When I think of Raws after WrestleMania, I think of the Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania 29, where Dolph Ziggler ended up cashing in the Money in the Bank briefcase, where he ended up beating Alberto Del Rio and becoming the World Heavyweight Champion. And the crowd just erupted when Dolph Ziggler ended up winning. That crowd that night for that Monday Night Raw was one of the best crowds that I've seen. And that was at the former Izod Center in Jersey. Another Raw after WrestleMania, I remember like some of the moments was the Raw after WrestleMania 33. And you all know how that show started, where Roman Reigns ended up coming out. He ended up getting booed by the fans because he beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania, which, of course, I have the plaque there. Point it there. So, yes, I have the plaque there, but Roman Reigns stood in that ring for, I guess, a good 10 minutes, and whenever he put the microphone up to go to speak, the fans just booed the hell out of him. And that was really good TV there. I loved every second of that. That's what you are expecting. The crowds to be, like that and just cheer. And, just you may call some of them marks, though, but you expect, the fans to be like that on the Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania. So that's what makes that Raw after WrestleMania feel special, in my opinion. But like I said, WWE put no effort into this show tonight, and put no excitement to it. They were just like, oh, we don't care. Let's just put on another random edition of Monday Night Raw. It's like they forgot what the Raw after WrestleMania means. I don't believe it. How is this the Raw after WrestleMania when it didn't even feel like it? But let's jump right into the review. Before I start, I just want to let you all know my reviews of Night 1 and Night 2 of WrestleMania are up. I just uploaded Night 2 of WrestleMania, my review of it, a few hours ago. So if you guys haven't checked out my review of Night 2 of WrestleMania, definitely go check it out. But let's jump right into the review. And Monday Night Raw, of course, WWE went back into the Thunderdome tonight. They actually relocated the Thunderdome. They're not in Tropicana Field anymore. They are now at the Yuengling Center in Tampa. So we go from having fans at WrestleMania for 2 nights back, and then we go back into the Thunderdome. And we're going to be at the Thunderdome until we see probably fans again until SummerSlam. That will be the next time I think we will get to see fans in attendance for a WWE show. SummerSlam. So, well, let's jump right into the review. So, Monday Night Raw kicked off with Bobby Lashley. There was video that was recorded earlier in the day where Bobby Lashley and MVP entered the Yuengling Center in the Thunderdome. Bobby Lashley was fist bumping Gran Metalik and Humberto Carrillo. He then gave an autograph to a woman that ended up walking up to him. And here we see Matt Riddle ended up coming up on a scooter. So Matt Riddle then congratulated Bobby Lashley on his win. And he ended up saying that even though his lip is busted, he wants to challenge Bobby Lashley tonight. So Lashley ended up saying that he went to war with McIntyre at WrestleMania and will be damned if he faces anyone lesser. Lashley ended up saying that he came here to address the WWE Universe and celebrate his win. And that's all. So Matt Riddle was ranting about the comments that Lashley made on being a fighting champion. And then Bobby Lashley then shoved Riddle face first into his scooter and then to the ground. And then Lashley ended up saying that he's going to teach Riddle a lesson. He ended up saying to Riddle that you are a loser and I'm a winner. And I will show you the difference. So Lashley ended up talking more trash to Matt Riddle, and then he ended up walking off with MVP. And that was that. So then we went to the Thunderdome, and we were joined by Byron Saxton at ringside on commentary, and Samoa Joe and Tom Phillips are off the Monday Night Raw commentary team. It was reported that Tom Phillips is off of the commentary team and that he's now put on 205 Live. So both Tom Phillips and Samoa Joe were replaced by Corey Graves. I guess Corey Graves is now doing double duty every single week with him working Monday Night Raw and SmackDown on Friday. And we also got a new person on the Raw commentary team. And that guy is Adnan Virk. I think that's how you pronounce his name. But he works for MLB Network. He has, I guess, this program called Change Up that's on MLB Network. I think it's called that. I'm not too sure, though. But I know he's from MLB Network. He used to be on ESPN. But his commentary, it's okay. But he needs a lot more work, in my opinion. As he's just trying to, stay calm and be comfortable with his new position on the Raw commentary team. So he will, I think, progress as, the months, come by. So that's all I got to say about Adnan Virk. So he needs more work on commentary. I mean, he's just learning. This is his first night, so I think he will get better as the months progress. And then we had the first match of the night, Bobby Lashley versus Matt Riddle. This was a pretty decent match here. We had Bobby Lashley come out first. He ended up coming out with MVP. So we had Matt Riddle end up coming out riding on a scooter, and Lashley ended up wasting no time. He immediately ended up knocking Matt Riddle off his scooter. He then launched Riddle into the barricade. He ripped Riddle's jacket off, and Lashley ended up ramming Riddle into the barricade some more. So Lashley was just continuing to pound on Matt Riddle. Lashley then scooped Riddle on his shoulders and ended up running Riddle into the ring post. So Matt Riddle went back down. Lashley ended up posing. So Lashley ended up bringing Matt Riddle into the ring, and the referee ended up checking on Riddle. And so the match got underway. The bell rang. Lashley went right to work. He was manhandling on Matt Riddle. MVP ended up cheering Lashley on from ringside. So Lashley ended up dropping Riddle with a neck breaker and delivered a long vertical suplex in the middle of the ring. He only used one hand on Riddle to deliver the suplex. So Lashley then went out and he throwed Matt Riddle's scooter away. He ended up tossing the scooter into a part of the Thunderdome. So Lashley ended up coming back in. Riddle tried to get some offense on Lashley, but Lashley ended up taking him down. So Lashley ended up taking Riddle to ringside, outside the ring, and he ended up tossing Riddle over the barricade, which was crazy. And so then Monday Night Raw went to commercial. And then when Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Lashley was shown still dominating on Riddle in the middle of the ring. Riddle ended up fighting back, but Lashley was delivering some knee strikes, and he delivered a shot into the turnbuckle to Matt Riddle. Lashley ended up driving Riddle face first into the mat, and he went for the cover, which Riddle ended up kicking out at 2. At the end of the match, Bobby Lashley ended up winning, where he locked in the Hurt Lock on Riddle. So there you go. Bobby Lashley ended up winning the match. But overall, decent match, in my opinion. Even though we've seen Lashley and Riddle go at it, times before. And then we had Rhea Ripley. Kevin Patrick was backstage interviewing her. He was congratulating Rhea on the win. So Kevin Patrick ended up asking Rhea Ripley about the rematch with Asuka. Ripley ended up saying that it's all about being confident in herself. And it was that self-confidence that led to her challenging Asuka on her first night on Monday Night Raw. And then it led to her beating Asuka at WrestleMania last night. She ended up saying, with tonight's rematch, she will prove once and for all to everybody that she is ready for Asuka. And I said this before. What did Rhea Ripley do when she came up to Monday Night Raw? She did nothing. She just wanted to accept a challenge to face Asuka at WrestleMania. She got the challenge. Last night at WrestleMania, she had the match with Asuka. She ended up defeating Asuka, winning the Raw Women's Championship. So basically, she just went to this match, and WWE decides to put the title on her. She did absolutely nothing on Monday Night Raw, and WWE offers her and puts the title over her. Unbelievable. So then we had Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander versus the return of the Viking Raiders. Eric and Ivar end up returning tonight. They've been out for, I guess, maybe like 6-7 months. So this was just a squash match here. Match started off with Ivar and Cedric Alexandra. Ivar ended up turning it around to Cedric into the corner, started unloading some strikes on Cedric. Eric ended up tagging in, and they ended up doing a double team. Eric ended up slamming Ivar on top of Cedric. Shelton then came in, and Shelton and Cedric ended up double teaming on Eric. Shelton then delivered a knee strike for a 2 count, which Eric kicked out at 2. So Shelton Benjamin ended up going to work on Eric now, who's delivered some knee strikes. Shelton Benjamin ended up beating Eric down, ended up nailing the suplex. Shelton went for a cover. Eric ended up kicking out at 2. At the end of the match, we had the Viking Raiders end up winning. The Viking Raiders end up hitting the Viking Experience on Cedric. Eric, who is the legal man, went for the cover. And there you go. The Viking Raiders end up winning the match. But overall, it was just a squash match, in my opinion. Was happy to see the Viking Raiders return. They've been out of action for that amount of months, maybe like 6 or 7 months. So it was good to see them, again. So then we saw Kevin Patrick was backstage with Asuka. Asuka ended up telling Kevin Patrick that WrestleMania was a nightmare. But tonight, she's ready for Rhea Ripley, and that she will once again be the Raw Women's Champion. So that was that. And then we had Charlotte Flair come out. So Charlotte ended up returning tonight, and I'm like, boy, Rhea won the title last night. It didn't take long for WWE to call up Charlotte and have her return on the Raw after WrestleMania. So on commentary, we had Annan Burke ended up mentioning that there were rumors of Charlotte being unhappy over WrestleMania. So Charlotte was in the ring. She ended up getting on the mic. And Charlotte ended up saying that she is here on the Raw after WrestleMania. And it doesn't even feel like a Raw after WrestleMania. So Charlotte ended up saying that she would be standing here with her Flair smile. But she wasn't at WrestleMania because she wasn't welcomed. Aww, cry me a river, Charlotte. Is it because nobody wanted to see you at WrestleMania? WWE did not need Charlotte to be at WrestleMania. So Charlotte ended up going on about how good she is and how what she does is sacred in the ring. She ended up saying that she wasn't at WrestleMania because of things out of her control. She ended up saying that it wasn't her fault that Asuka needed a tag team partner. It wasn't her fault her dad showed up to Legends Night acting like a fool. It wasn't her fault that Lacey Evans got pregnant and she couldn't kick her ass in the ring. So Charlotte ended up saying none of this was her fault. She even challenged Asuka in the ring, and that Asuka didn't respond. She wanted to say that opportunist Rhea Ripley challenged Asuka, and that Asuka accepted. So she ended up saying, and Ripley won the Raw Women's Championship. She said a star was born. Out with the old, in with the new. So Charlotte ended up going on about how the other women in the locker room were glad that she wasn't there because they saw an opportunity. Charlotte ended up saying that Ripley is the biggest snake in the locker room. So Charlotte ended up bringing up how Asuka is getting herself a rematch tonight with Rhea Ripley for the Raw Women's Championship. And she ended up saying that Karma is a bitch. And she is that bitch. So Charlotte ended up naming superstars like Sasha Banks, Nia Jax, Shayna Baszler, Asuka, Rhea Ripley. And she ended up saying that those stars don't compare to her. Oh, really now? Those are better superstars that take a chance, that actually want an opportunity, when you get handed all the opportunities. Which, WWE always loves to hand Charlotte opportunity after opportunity after opportunity and give her these title matches where she don't have to compete. They're just like, oh, she's a Flair. Oh, let's give her a title shot. And the only reason why they do that is because she's a Flair. So Charlotte ended up saying that she realized for the first time since inking her contract 7 years ago, after watching WrestleMania from home, that she doesn't steal opportunities. She is the opportunity. So Charlotte ended up saying that to all the delusional fans at home who think she steals opportunities from their favorites, no, she creates opportunities. So she ended up saying that she's not apologizing for being that good, and that we will all bow down to our 13-time women's champion. And she ended up saying that she's that good, and that she wants everyone to show some respect to what she's brought to the industry. Charlotte ended up going on saying about everything she's given, and asked what has she been given in return. She ended up saying to enjoy the title match tonight that she should have been in. No, you shouldn't. So she ended up dropping the mic and then she poses as her music ended up coming back up, and that was that. But this whole segment with Charlotte was just corny as hell. It was cringy. It was terrible. And then we had Asuka versus Rhea Ripley, the rematch for the Raw Women's Championship. What was so different that we didn't see last night? Same old. So the match ended up starting. Asuka and Rhea Ripley end up sizing each other up. They lock up. Asuka ended up taking Rhea Ripley into the corner. Ripley ended up fighting back into the opposite corner. She ended up charging, and Asuka ended up trying to send her into the turnbuckle, but was blocked. Ripley ended up tossing Asuka across the ring. She started beating Asuka around the ring. So it was back and forth with them. Asuka ended up delivering some strikes, but Rhea Ripley ended up taking Asuka into the corner. Ripley ended up taking Asuka up to the top and delivered a back suplex, but Asuka ended up back elbowing her to the mat. Rhea Ripley ended up coming back up, ended up delivering drop kicks to Asuka, and the match ended in a no contest because Charlotte ended up attacking from behind. Charlotte ended up shoving both Asuka and Rhea Ripley down. So Charlotte ended up unloading on Asuka. Rhea Ripley ended up getting up, but Charlotte ended up leveling Rhea Ripley with a big boot. Charlotte ended up going back to work on Asuka, ended up launching Asuka to the floor. Charlotte was just delivering a running boot against the ring to Asuka. Then she ended up delivering one to Rhea Ripley. And that was that. It looks like this is going to possibly lead to a triple threat, where it's going to be Asuka versus Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte for the Raw Women's Championship. And with no doubt about it, the Raw Women's Championship is going to Charlotte. Rhea Ripley just won the title so she could get it hot for Charlotte. You tell, because WWE loves handing things to the Queen. So yeah, watch the title go back to Charlotte. We all know it's going to happen, and we all don't want to see it. So then we saw The Miz and John Morrison backstage, and Maurice was there. And the reason why Maurice was there was because Miz and Mrs. Came back tonight. So it was just for The Miz and Maurice being there. It would just get the casual viewer for ratings for their show, which came on after Monday Night Raw. So Miz kissed Maurice. Morrison ended up asking what Maurice is doing here. And The Miz ended up telling him that Maurice is a guest on Miz TV. So Morrison ended up saying, "Of course, I knew that." And that was that. And then when Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, we saw Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. They were watching the replay of Mandy Rose slipping at WrestleMania on night one, on Saturday night. So they kept on rewinding it back, playing it, and they found it funny. So Mandy Rose ended up coming up, and she ended up asking if they're done, as Shayna Baszler ended up heading off. Mandy Rose ended up telling Nia Jax that it was embarrassing that she ended up slipping. But she ended up saying that it was really funny also. And that's really funny when you don't see things coming like that. So Mandy Rose then smacked Nia Jax on the side of the head. And Dana Brooke ended up coming in, and her and Mandy Rose ended up knocking Nia Jax down. And both Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke ended up walking off. And Nia Jax was just pissed off. And that was that. Then we saw Alexa Bliss backstage for Alexa's Playground. Alexa Bliss was shown swinging on her swing. She ended up saying that WrestleMania was really fun, and that we're probably wondering why she did what she did. She ended up saying that this story will explain a lot. So Alexa Bliss then explained. She ended up telling the story of a little girl who was lost until she was rescued by his darkness. She ended up saying that the darkness protected her, nurtured her, and taught her everything she knew. She wanted to say that then that the darkness went away, and that may have been when the little girl realized she never needed the darkness anyway. So while Alexa Bliss was talking, we saw flashes of segments and moments from Alexa Bliss. When she was in this dark, this darkness, that was brought onto by the Fiend, Bray Wyatt. So Alexa Bliss ended up asking if it's true what they say in the female species being the deadliest. So she ended up saying, "We may never know, but one thing we will know for sure along the way is that she unlocked something really evil." So Alexa Bliss ended up introducing her new friend. And she introduced her new friend, Lily. And Lily is this wild, deranged looking puppet that was sitting on the swing next to Alexa. So Alexa ended up saying that their fun is just getting started. So she was laughing. So we get a look at Lily the puppet, and it ended up snarling at the camera, and that was how the segment ended. But what WWE here did is now Bray Wyatt is not the center of this anymore. They made Alexa Bliss, very front and center here. So, but that was that. I'm liking, what they're doing with Alexa Bliss. now been liking it. She's the best thing on Monday Night Raw in this whole storyline with what they're doing with her. So then we had Miz TV. Miz and Maurice ended up coming out first, and then John Morrison ended up coming out. So Miz ended up welcoming us to, of course, Miz TV. Miz went on to say that WrestleMania has come and gone, and despite everything it was, he is still the most talked about entertainer in entertainment. So Miz ended up showing Maurice off and says everyone is wondering why Maurice is here. So Morrison ended up acting like he knows why Maurice is here. So then Maurice ended up plugging the return of Miz and Mrs., which came on after Monday Night Raw on USA. Morrison ended up saying that makes sense. And so Morrison proposed a spin-off series. But Miz and Maurice were mainly not interested in that. So the Miz ended up reminding John Morrison that he's in the episode tonight, which he was. I actually did watch, Miz and Mrs. I like the show. It's an entertaining show. It's much better than what WWE is having Miz and Morrison do here. But I like Miz and Mrs. So Miz ended up taking credit for making Bad Bunny a superstar. He ended up saying that the impressive performance would have never happened if it wasn't for his tutelage. Miz ended up showing us, some highlights from the match. And it saw, Bad Bunny and Damian Priest beat the Miz and Morrison, which that match, I was saying, that match is going to be shit. But with Bad Bunny's performance in that match, he surprised all of us. The guy did very well in that match. Diving off the top, taking out Miz and Morrison. But he was impressive, Bad Bunny. He surprised everyone. So Damian Priest ended up interrupting, and he came out. Miz ended up ranting back, and he ended up challenging Damian Priest to a match. So John Morrison ended up saying that he was just about to challenge Damian Priest. So Miz and Morrison were arguing, and Maurice ended up yelling at them to stop arguing. She ended up saying that they can both fight Damian Priest. So Damian Priest ended up calling them idiots, and he ended up saying that he's fine with a handicap match. So Damian Priest then headed to the ring, and Miz and Morrison ended up wanting to wait until later because they were not dressed up for the match. So Monday Night Raw went to commercial. And then when Monday Night Raw came back, we had the 2-on-1 handicap match, Miz and Morrison versus Damian Priest. Very meh match, in my opinion. So we had Miz and Morrison in there. Damian Priest ended up getting double teamed earlier by Miz and Morrison. Morrison ended up landing an elbow as Miz ended up launching Priest into it. Morrison ended up coming in and went for cover. Damian Priest ended up kicking out too. So Morrison then unloaded in the corner to Damian Priest with shots. Miz ended up tagging back in. He started going to work on Damian Priest. Priest then turned it around, ended up going from corner to corner on Miz and Morrison. Damian Priest then hit the Falcon Arrow on Morrison, a nice Falcon Arrow. Miz ended up ducking a clothesline, but Damian Priest ended up hitting a heel kick to the Miz. Morrison was out on the floor recovering. Priest then ended up hitting a choke slam to the Miz, but Morrison ended up running to break up the pin. At the end of the match, we had Miz end up running in, and Damian Priest ended up blocking the skull crushing finale. Priest ended up going to put the Miz away. Maurice ended up trying to pull Miz from Damian Priest. Priest ended up getting the Miz back in, but he was distracted by Maurice. Miz took advantage, and he ended up rolling up Damian Priest for the win. And there you go. The Miz and John Morrison end up winning, where we had the Miz. When the Miz ended up pinning Damian Priest, he had his foot on the ropes, and Maurice ended up holding one of his feet on the ropes so he would get the win. So there you go. Miz and Morrison ended up winning. Post-match, we had the Miz end up stumbling around at ringside. He loses his pants because Damian Priest ended up tearing his pants up. And it showed the Miz's boxers. And, we didn't want to see the Miz in his boxers. But overall, just a very meh match. Now we had Kevin Patrick backstage with Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. Kevin Patrick ended up showing us what Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke did to Nia Jax earlier. So we saw, what happened earlier where Mandy Rose ended up slapping Nia Jax. Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose end up knocking down Nia Jax. And after the replay was over, Nia Jax was like, was that necessary to show the replay again? She ended up yelling at Kevin Patrick for trying to embarrass her. And Nia Jax ended up saying that Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke attacked her to deflect from Mandy Rose's slip at WrestleMania. So Nia Jax ended up saying that after the beating she and Basler give Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke tonight, no one will be talking about them. So they end up walking off, and that was that. So then we had Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler versus Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke. And we had Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose come out first. And then Monday Night Raw went to commercial. Then when Monday Night Raw came back, we had Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler make their way out. Nia Jax ended up mocking Mandy Rose, and she acted like she slipped entering the ring. So Nia Jax was just making fun of Mandy's slip. So then the bell ended up ringing. The match was terrible, in my opinion. Nia Jax started unloading on Dana Brooke in the corner. Nia Jax ended up sending Dana Brooke into the corner and delivered a splash. Nia Jax ended up keeping Dana Brooke down in the corner, delivered a boot to the face. Nia Jax was shown grinding Dana Brooke's face across the middle rope. Shayna Baszler ended up tagging in, ended up whipping Dana Brooke into a shot from Nia Jax. Baszler then delivered a big knee for a 2 count on Dana Brooke. And we had Nia Jax end up rolling Mandy Rose back into the ring, and she ended up trying to follow, but Nia Jax ended up slipping on the apron, ends up falling back to the floor. So Mandy Rose was laughing as Nia Jax was pissed off on the ground, on the outside. So Nia Jax ended up going into the ring, and Mandy Rose ended up retreating up to the ramp with Dana Brooke. So Nia Jax was yelling at both Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose to come back to the ring, and they both wanted no part of it. So Mandy Rose ended up saying that it's not worth it. So Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose continue backing up the ramp. And so the match ended in a countout. So Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler won the match by countout. Terrible. Match was awful. So then we had MVP in the ring. MVP was on the mic, and he ended up saying that this is an official announcement from the Hurt Business. He ended up saying that Bobby Lashley will join us soon, but allow MVP to address the fans. He ended up saying that Bobby Lashley ended up retaining the title at WrestleMania on night 1. and all he wanted to do tonight was celebrate his victory and address the fans. But he was so disrespected that he decided he didn't want to allow any foolishness. MVP wanted to say that McIntyre is an absolute warrior and that he is one of the most dominant champions WWE has ever seen. He kept saying that he took his eye off the target for 1 second, and that's where he messed up. So MVP ended up telling McIntyre that it's okay to be number 2 when the Almighty is number 1. So MVP ended up going on about how McIntyre gave it his best, and that it's over when Lashley ended up applying the Hurt Lock. He ended up wondering how McIntyre feels today after passing out in the Hurt Lock and probably not walking around with his head held high. MVP ended up saying that if McIntyre can't handle the pressure of the Hurt Lock, who can? So MVP was like, no one. Absolutely no one. So out came McIntyre. McIntyre was on the mic, and he ended up saying that how the hell would MVP know how he feels? He ended up saying that WrestleMania came down to a few things: the Claymore and the Hurt Lock. And he ended up saying, who made the first mistake? So McIntyre ended up saying that he is man enough to admit that he made the first mistake when he allowed MVP to distract him. But he makes no excuses, and that there's not much to do about the Hurt Lock once it's locked in. So McIntyre ended up saying that not a man on earth can humble him. He ended up telling MVP to keep hyping up Bobby Lashley, growing his ego, and milk the cash cow, and make that money, and keep kissing that ass, because McIntyre ended up saying that he wants Bobby Lashley's head as big as possible, because eventually he'll get his rematch. And when he connects with that Claymore, he wants Lashley to fall as far as possible and look up at the new WWE champion himself, Drew McIntyre. So MVP ended up saying that he respects McIntyre. McIntyre ended up warning him to choose his next words wisely. So MVP ended up saying that McIntyre can agree that nothing around here is given. And so then out came Braun Strowman. MVP ended up saying that McIntyre can take his ass to the back of the line. He knows it and how it works. But he was like, what is Braun doing out here? So Braun ended up saying that McIntyre lost, which means that he can take his ass to the back of the line, while the monster among men steps to the front of it. He wanted to say that after annihilating Shane McMahon in the steel cage at WrestleMania. So Strowman ended up entering the ring, started staring McIntyre down, and then out came Randy Orton. MVP ended up asking, what is going on? Orton ended up saying that The Fiend and Alexa Bliss are no more. They're finished, which means no more mind games. So Orton ended up saying that he could focus on what he's the absolute best at, being the Viper, the Legend Killer, the Apex Predator, but most importantly, him being WWE Champion again. So Randy Orton ended up saying that The Fiend and Alexa Bliss are no more, and that they're finished, and no more mind games. I'm like, oh, thank God. No more of this Orton and Bray Wyatt feud. Thank God. So Adam Pearce ended up coming out. Adam Pearce ended up saying that he can see where this is going, and that everyone is making good points, and that makes his job easy. So Adam Pearce then ended up announcing a triple threat, with the winner facing Bobby Lashley for the WWE Championship at the next pay-per-view. And that next pay-per-view is WrestleMania Backlash. And that's going to be happening on May 16th. And WrestleMania Backlash, what a stupid name for a pay-per-view. This clearly takes the WrestleMania name and just makes it a joke, in my opinion. We already had WrestleMania. Why are we having WrestleMania Backlash? I'm like, do we need 2 WrestleManias? How stupid. The next pay-per-view, WrestleMania Backlash. Why not just call it Backlash? Stupid. WrestleMania Backlash. Give me a break. What's going to be leftovers that WWE didn't want put on the WrestleMania card? So that was announced. And then we had Braun Strowman. He ended up stopping Drew McIntyre backstage. They were having words over the triple threat. And Strowman ended up saying that he knows McIntyre wants a WWE Championship rematch. And now he's standing in Strowman's way of the title. And that means he has a monster-sized ass-whooping coming his way. So that was that. And then we had the New Day versus Elias and Jackson Riker. Elias was in the ring with Jackson Riker. Elias ended up having his guitar. He ended up saying that he wants to make sure Shane McMahon gets the respect he deserves for his valiant effort against Strowman at WrestleMania. So Elias ended up dedicating this performance to Shane, his friend and mentor, for his unmatched bravery at WrestleMania. So Elias went to play his guitar, and every time he played the guitar here, we heard a trombone. And of course it was Francesca the trombone. So we had the New Day come out, Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods. So Kofi ended up wondering why Elias and Jackson Riker are not apologizing to the tag team division for how they embarrassed it by getting beat all around WrestleMania by one man, Braun Strowman. So Xavier Woods ended up saying that he and Kofi would never show their faces again if something like that happened to them. So Kofi and Xavier were taunting Elias and Jackson Riker, and they were chanting shame at them. So Elias ended up saying that they also got beat around by one man, Omos. And come to think of it, why wasn't Sheamus on the show tonight? Why weren't Styles and Omos on the show when they won titles at WrestleMania? They were missing tonight. So Elias was taunting New Day for losing the Raw Tag Team titles to Omos and Styles. Kofi ended up slipping in a nod to DMX in his promo there. So New Day ended up going on and they ended up saying that they're going to show Elias and Ryker what a real tag team looks like. So the bell ended up ringing. Match was just very meh, in my opinion. Jaxson Riker ended up charging at Xavier Woods to start off the match. Xavier Woods ended up dumping Riker over the top rope out to the floor. Elias ended up coming in, but he also got dumped to the floor with Jaxson Riker. Kofi and Xavier Woods ended up running the ropes together. They end up leaping out, taking out Elias and Jaxson Riker. Elias then ended up whipping Xavier Woods to the ropes before Jaxson Riker ended up nailing a spine buster on Xavier Woods. Jaxson Riker ended up mounting Xavier Woods with a right hand for a 2 count. So at the end of the match, we had the New Day end up winning. Xavier Woods ended up coming in and he delivered a double team stomp from the turnbuckles. And so there you go. The New Day ended up winning the match. Overall, very meh match. So then we have Randy Orton backstage. Randy Orton was talking about how he's been distracted, but that stopped at WrestleMania, as it appears that The Fiend and Alexa have disappeared. Orton ended up saying that he is focused on the WWE Championship now. He ended up saying that he has to go through Strowman and McIntyre, but he only has to strike once because he brings to the ring with him the three most dangerous letters in sports entertainment: RKO. So that was a little backstage promo that Randy Orton ended up cutting. And then we went to the Firefly Funhouse. The Firefly Funhouse ended up returning. So we saw Rambling Rabbit. We saw Abby the Witch. Huskus the Pig. So Rambling Rabbit ended up announcing the return of Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt ended up coming through the door. He was laughing and waving. He was like, "Hello, Fireflies!" He ended up saying that it feels so good to be back in the Funhouse, especially with his true friends. Abby the Witch ended up saying, "Good riddance," and as she can't stand that little bitch. Of course, she was talking about Alexa Bliss. So Rambling Rabbit ended up saying that it's going to be so roomy in here without her. So Bray Wyatt ended up grabbing Rambling Rabbit, and he ended up kissing Rambling Rabbit, and then ended up throwing him away. Bray Wyatt ended up saying that they will always have each other. He ended up saying, as a matter of fact, he feels great, and this could be a new start for everyone in the Funhouse. And he ended up saying that, oh, it's a new season, new friends, and a new Bray Wyatt. He ended up saying that he feels reborn. So we had Bray Wyatt end up saying that he will return. And he ended up saying that the Funhouse will be big, bad, and strong. So Bray Wyatt then waved goodbye to end the Firefly Funhouse segment. And that was that. But it was cool seeing the Firefly Funhouse return. And then we had the main event. Drew McIntyre versus Randy Orton versus Braun Strowman. #1 contenders match. The winner gets to face Bobby Lashley at WrestleMania Backlash for the WWE Championship. So McIntyre ended up entering the ring. He was the first one to come out. And then Braun Strowman then came out, and then Randy Orton. And this main event was decent in my opinion. We had the bell end up ringing. All of them go at it. McIntyre started unloading on Strowman. He then swung at Orton. Orton ended up backing away, and he rolled out to the floor. Strowman ended up attacking McIntyre and beat him down in the corner. And Orton was just watching from ringside. He comes in. He decks Strowman from behind. We had McIntyre and Orton double team on Strowman. And McIntyre and Orton end up delivering a double suplex to Strowman. McIntyre then ended up kicking both Orton and Strowman. Strowman ended up leveling McIntyre and Orton with a double clothesline. And then Strowman ended up tossing McIntyre over the top rope out to the floor. And then Strowman ended up going out. He ends up running around the ring. And surprisingly, we did not hear the train sound. Remember the train sound that they would hear when Strowman ended up hitting them with a clothesline or just run them over outside the ring. You know, it was hilarious when they played the train sound. So I'm like, why did they add the train sound like when he ended up going around the ring? I'm like, I'm glad that they stopped doing that because it was just stupid. It's just absolutely stupid. So Strowman was running around the ring, and McIntyre ended up hitting Strowman with the ring steps. Orton then grabbed McIntyre from behind, ended up slamming McIntyre on top of the announce table as Monday Night Raw went to commercial. Then when Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, McIntyre was just injuring Strowman's knees. He was rocking Strowman with knees in the ring. Orton ended up coming in, started kicking away. McIntyre ended up headbutting Strowman out of the ring. And he ended up turning around to Orton, turning on him. Orton then ended up delivering stomps to McIntyre. McIntyre ended up fighting back. And McIntyre ended up leveling Orton with clotheslines. McIntyre then delivered a overhead throw to Orton, and he delivered another toss to Orton, another overhead throw to Orton. So at the end of the match, we had Orton end up dropping Strowman with the RKO. Orton ended up going for the cover. McIntyre ended up running in to break up the pin. So McIntyre broke it up and delivered the Claymore. McIntyre ended up covering Orton for the pin. And there you go. Drew McIntyre ended up winning the match. He is now the number one contender. He's going to be getting his rematch against Bobby Lashley at WrestleMania Backlash on May 16th for the WWE Championship. So I'm like, McIntyre lost clean to Bobby Lashley on Saturday night at WrestleMania. So he gets a rematch now. So then we saw McIntyre end up standing tall post-match, and the Hurt Business music ended up hitting. Out came MVP. He came out to the stage by himself, and McIntyre was attacked from behind by Mace and T-Bar. So MVP was watching from the stage as McIntyre ended up recovering. T-Bar and Mace were staring McIntyre down from the bottom of the ramp. And that was how the Raw after WrestleMania went off the air. So it looks like MVP ended up recruiting T-Bar and Mace to be a part of the Hurt Business. So now it's going to be Mace, T-Bar, MVP, and Bobby Lashley. The new Hurt Business, with Mace and T-Bar now there. So that was the Raw after WrestleMania. Overall, this was the worst Raw after WrestleMania that I have ever seen. And WWE put no effort into the show tonight, in my opinion. Just overall, terrible show. So, anyways, that's it for the Monday Night Raw review. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and until next video, which there will be no Dynamite review on Wednesday, so that review will possibly be up on Friday. So expect a double upload this Friday. So until then, I'll see you all later.